Well, this morning we're going off into the Badlands. It's actually the Buffalo Gap National Grasslands south of the Badlands. And we're going to go rock hunting. Lynn's already out there filling her bag. I have to get through about last night's hard rain of gumbo, which is out there in front of us. When you're going out into the South Dakota gumbo, one of my tricks is to put a garbage bag over my floor mats, because there's nothing stickier than Badlands gumbo, and it will make a mess. We got it in four-wheel drive, so we'll see what happens. There's nothing worse than South Dakota gumbo. Oh wow, it is greasy. Well, Lynn's out there enjoying herself, filling her bag with rocks. There's the Badlands. We're south of the Badlands. This is what rock hounding in the Buffalo Gap National Grasslands looks like. Leverite. Occasionally, very occasionally, people find Fairburn agates out here. I've never found one, and I've done a lot of looking. Wouldn't it be special if I found one while I was filming? So I'll probably look at this later, and I'll be 100 miles from here, and I'll say, oh my God, look at that. I missed a Fairburn agate. Everybody's got their work to do. Maybe I'll tell you how we started to be rock hounds. I used to go rock hunting with my grandmother, so I started as a kid. And I didn't do it for years. And so when we bought a motorhome in 2001, I'm talking to YouTube. No. We decided we needed some hobbies. So she's talking. We decided we needed some hobbies, so hang on a sec. Okay, now I think she's got the plan and stops asking me who I'm talking to. We bought that motorhome in 2001 and took off and sold the house we lived in and decided that we needed some hobbies that fit into the motorhome. So I suggested rock hunting, and she took up beading, so she kind of thought that we'd find a bunch of rocks, make holes in them, and she'd have free beads. And I bought this four-wheel drive Suzuki, and I thought, well, it's a good chance to get off-road. So we both had our plans. Then I started reading some books, and I decided, well, if you're going to be a rock hound, you might as well be a diamond prospector. So I started reading books, and after reading a few books about diamond prospecting, I kind of lowered my sights and decided, well, maybe I'll just be a gem hunter. We'll look for opals and sapphires. I read a few more books. Anyway, to make a long story short, we're down to Pretty Rocks, and Lynn, she's an expert in leverites. Those are things you ought to leverite where you find them. Okay, so there's the motorhome. There's the cattle guard. Here's me. The Suzuki is seriously stuck. And this is what a 20-pound shoe looks like. I got my come-along hooked to the cattle guard. We're going to give it a little try, see if we can go a few inches. Well, we're back home in Mexico, and we've polished the rocks that we collected there at the Buffalo Gap National Grasslands, and they should be ready, so let's go take a look. We call this the rock polishing room. It's one of 5 bathrooms, and we only need 1 or 2 bathrooms. This is the rock polisher, and these are some rocks that we've done in the past. It's just finishing up the 5th stage, which is just sawdust and dish soap in order to clean all the polishing compound off. These are the polishing grits, and that's 220 silicone carbide, a little finer stuff, and finally the polishing compound. And we had an interesting experience coming through the TSA in Rapid City, South Dakota with this stuff. I repackaged it, and this one looks like gunpowder, and these look like cocaine. And the TSA had some questions about that. The problem started when Lynn and I bought 2 new carry-on bags to come home with, and they were identical. So when the TSA decided that they wanted to take a second look at that polishing compound in one of those new carry-on bags, their first question to me was, "Is this your bag?" And my reply was, "I don't know," because I didn't know if it was my bag or her bag. Apparently that set off some alarm bells. So they went and got their test equipment, and they're getting out their test tubes and putting stuff in the test tubes, and it's changing colors, and then they go and get the supervisor, and when the supervisor comes, she couldn't have been nicer. She said she uses exactly the same polishing compounds in her rock tumbler at home. She knew exactly what it was, but they had to go ahead and do their job. And again, she couldn't have been nicer and very apologetic. And it took about 20 minutes, and I was on my way. But I guess the lesson is that if you're bringing rock polishing compound through an airport checkpoint, do not repackage it and put it in your checked baggage, not your carry-on stuff. I thought you might like to see the finished product of the rocks after they're polished. It takes about a month to polish them, and we're back in Mexico now. But while you're looking at these polished rocks, most of which came from the Buffalo Gap National Grasslands in South Dakota, I thought I'd tell you the rest of the story about getting the Suzuki unstuck from the gumbo. The come-along didn't work. It just wasn't strong enough to pull it out. It was stuck too tight. So what I had to do was back the motorhome up, put the front wheels of it right at and slightly on the cattle guard. I took the 2 safety cables off of the tow bar, and stretching them together along with the come-along, I was able to reach the Suzuki and hook it onto the front bumper of the motorhome. Backing the motorhome up, there was no problem whatsoever pulling the Suzuki out of the gumbo. but I was so lucky that I wasn't another 6 or 18 inches away from that cattle guard, or I might have been calling a wrecker. That rock that you just looked at there, it's not from the grasslands. That was actually a slice of an Oregon thunder egg from Richardson's Ranch in Oregon. Thanks for watching my videos. Like them if you do. I've posted a couple of pictures here about what's coming next. We're going down to Angostura Reservoir on the south end of the Black Hills of South Dakota near the town of Hot Springs to see if we can catch a crappie. And we're going to be joined by 23 relatives coming in all kinds of campers and a fifth wheel and probably a lot of tents. And we're hoping you'll come back and see how crazy we can get. Again, thanks for watching. Please subscribe, and hey, I like comments too.